Ready?
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Patricia A. Hannaford Career Center Board together. And who would like to start with introductions? Lorraine!
I would be delighted. Lorraine Morse, representing the Addison Central School District.
Glenn Schmidt, Hanford Career Center Adult Ed Coordinator and Cooperative Education Coordinator.
Christina Macklin, Addison Northwest School District Representative.
Linda Barrett, Clerk.
Dana Peterson, Director and Superintendent.
Suzanne Buck, representing ACSD and Board Chair.
Missy Beckwith, Workforce Investment Board.
Mike McGrath, Addison Northwest.
Kim Farnham from New Haven. I'm the Mount Abraham representative for Community at Large member. And Madam Chairman, do we have a quorum?
I was just gonna ask that, do you have a
Yeah.
quorum?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We have 6. We have a quorum.
Just
Or
barely.
11, yeah.
One over.
Kelly Mills, Sustainable Agriculture Instructor, and Dina Students.
Seeing no visitors, I'm gonna move on. Correspondence?
Yes, 2 items of correspondence that may actually require us to make a slight adjustment on the agenda, if we can, because we
Yep.
have received 2 donations that we would need to accept,
Okay.
each for $1,000. So if we can put that under the action agenda, that would be great.
All right, so we will move correspondence down to the action agenda?
Action agenda, we'll put it right before policy 2.7 if we can.
Sure. Does that work for everyone? What is it? So we're gonna move it,
Correspondence to,
it would be the first thing on the action
Yep.
agenda.
2 donations.
So do I have an approval then, a motion to approve the revised agenda for tonight's meeting? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion is passed, we approve the agenda. Moving on to consent agenda. We have the minutes of January 16th. Did everyone get them in their,
Yep.
okay? And then, Missy, do you want to do the monthly accounts?
Sure. Do we need to accept the minutes?
No.
No, 'cause they're
The
part
consent
of the-
agenda will just be passed as long as there are any.
It's all right. We're all still
questions.
working our way through this. We'll have a training that'll make us really good at this.
Great. All right, so moving on to the expenditures. Building and equipment reserve, $4,936.33. The general fund, $29,237.13. Revolving fund, $8,306.25. The McClure grant had no expenditures. The Makery grant, $36.30. For payroll, $86,530.81, and that's for the payroll that ran on January 18th. Payroll for February 1st, $82,740.56.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda?
Doesn't need one.
Oh,
It's by
that's right.
consent.
That's right,
So
by
unless
consent.
unless
So
somebody wants
there's
to pull
nothing,
something
so
off, right,
we're all set.
we're all set.
All right, now we'll do the correspondence?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Career Center was the beneficiary of 2 checks for $1,000 each. And I would like to have someone entertain a motion to accept those 2 donations. They were identified for helping to purchase equipment for the Industrial Design and Fabrication Lab.
So moved.
All second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the two donations of $1,000 each for purchase of equipment for the,
The industrial design and fabrication
thank you.
lab.
Is there any discussion on that?
What kind of equipment?
That is actually on the agenda because
Okay.
we have a milling machine and we have the state equipment grant. And these will help supplement that grant, and I'll talk about the equipment in just a few moments.
Okay, all right.
So,
All those in favor of accepting the two $1,000 donations, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is passed. Policy 2.7, compensation and benefits, monitoring report.
yes, so in your packet, you have a monitoring report from me. Should be the next page if we've done our homework right. And there's nothing out of the ordinary. We follow all prescribed practices for submitting requests for proposals. And we don't take any action with respect to compensation. And we track the expenses periodically throughout the year to make sure that we are on track. We do not make any promises or obligations that that would not follow approved procedure. And we are currently applying all of the requisite compensation in accordance with the master agreement for the 2018-19 school year. And we worked diligently to collaborate through the budget process to establish a reasonable projection for what costs may be for the 2020 school year, even though there are negotiations happening right now that will affect what that outcome might be. And finally, in terms of no obligations, longer than a year, we have a report in under number 4 where we've identified the expenses and the revenues. We have approximately, at the time that this report was written, 47% of total receipts for revenues had come in at $1,654,447. And we have expenses at 46.44%, with a total of $1,610,733.96. And the BRF had a fund balance of $82,550.
Are there any questions about the monitoring report? If not, can I have a motion to approve? Second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion to approve and second the monitoring report. Are there any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have accepted the monitoring report. Now, the mystery of what the two $1,000 will be used for will be answered. For accept a bid for milling machine.
Yes, so in your packet, you have a specification sheet from the bid that we are recommending. We followed the prescribed bidding process and solicited 5 bids because they're pretty specific. We sent out an RFP, request for proposals, that had the specifications in general format. And so what you have that we were looking for, and what you have here is the bid that has been recommended by the selection committee and recommended to me. And the bid is from, I think it's on the backside, Trident Machine Tools of Windsor, Connecticut. So you see that right up above the $29,000 quote that's there. There is one piece of additional equipment that is a wireless probing system for $5,495 that the recommendation was that that would be an exceptional value for the program. So with all of the bottom line is down in red, $31,843.50. The other bid that came in, of the two that we received from Ironclad Machinery, was $75,350. The difference was the industrial nature, we believe, of the second bid. So they were looking at somebody who was running a 24-hour processing rather than a school. So this particular bid was much more in line with our budget and much more in line with the use that the machine is likely to see. So it is my pleasure to present this as a bid that for your
What
approval.
does this wonderful thing do?
Well, it can function both as a mill and a lathe,
Okay.
and it can shape just about anything in terms of subtractive technology. So it can do what several of our current machines all do separately. And it has a digital interface and works with our program design software that we have, so the students could actually design it, and it would save a lot of time in terms of practice trials. The students will still learn how to do G-code and to actually manipulate it by hand, but if they are working on a project, rather than having to change and make mistakes multiple times, they can actually draft it in digital form and then be able to try it with the simulator, trial it, see if it meets specs. If it doesn't, then they won't cut it. So you can save a lot of time on the machining part for this particular device. And it's state of the art. That's what a lot of machining shops or enterprises are currently using. In fact, I saw something similar to this when I visited GE down in Rutland with the other tech directors. You're welcome.
Is there a cost for installation?
No.
I just noticed that it says rigging, local rigging is not included in the quote, and the freight is cross-country freight to a rigger of your choice. And because the rigger is included there, it would lead me to believe that, I'm not sure how we get it in the building. It's on the backside.
Yeah, I saw that. Right here where it says, not included in this quote, and then cross-country freight to the rigger of your choice. I mean, I don't know how heavy this machine is based on this little picture.
So my understanding is that if the shipping goes to a local, it's being built in California and will be shipped to the East Coast, that John Curler would go down and transport it back here for us, which has happened before. So we don't believe we have additional cost. If that's the question.
It is. And you know me, I like to be in the weeds, so I would have a ton of follow-up questions related to that, but they may not be.
The team that made the recommendation to me, because I asked the questions in terms of any additional cost, and they say that they can handle it. We also have some volunteers from the advisory board for Doug Atwood, who have committed to being able to help offload if it's a question of doing that here. And
Right.
they have experience doing that with other similar machines.
There's an overhead door in the shop, and
Right.
the forklift could
Okay.
pick it off of the trailer.
That's helpful
and
to
set it.
understand.
Yep.
Right, because when I hear rigger, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
crane and it's something except really, really heavy.
I think that's kind of a generic for, it's your problem, it's on the truck.
Right. But indicates that something is
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then my other question is this replacing existing equipment? It's new.
It's brand new. We don't have a piece of equipment that does this. So, now, having said that, Missy, the question is, would they be able to retire a piece of equipment and perhaps sell it? That's a possibility. But we haven't gone into specifics about that. The idea is that they have space in the shop to accommodate this particular piece of equipment.
And was the money from the state equipment grant allocated for the purchase of this?
Yes.
Or is it was?
Well, at the last board meeting, or one of the previous board meetings, I asked for the state equipment grant money to go to the design and fabrication lab. So for approval for the expenditures, I put in the request for this particular piece of equipment. AOE has approved it. So if we accept this bid, I would probably entertain a motion to authorize me to expend the state equipment grant for this particular purpose. And I will explain the role of the two donations, because as you can, the state equipment grant does not quite pay for the full cost of this piece of equipment. With those two donations, we'll be able to get that, and then the shipping will be paid for out of our general facilities. And that will make up the total cost of the equipment that's being recommended.
So in this, they have installation that it's included, so is someone from Trident coming to do the installation then?
They have somebody that will be coming up from Connecticut, yes, who will be helping with the training with Doug Atwood and whatever is needed in terms of appropriate setup.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Is everyone thoroughly understanding what we're buying?
I'd like to pay a visit, maybe, and see it operating.
Love to, we'll let you know.
Do you want us to have a board meeting
Field
down
trip.
there?
Yeah.
Field trip.
Okay.
We can do a field trip.
We had hoped to, initially, thought that it might actually be something that we could work out in time for the open house, but with the timing of the state equipment grant that didn't come until December, our having to put it out to bid, there was no way we were not going to be in a position to be able to bring this to the board at the last board meeting. So that pushed the timeline back, but we're hoping to have it for sometime in March.
That's my other question. Thank
Yep.
you.
And we have adequate power in that
Yes.
space for this?
Yep, John Curler has looked at the specs. I asked John Curler, Doug Atwood, and Gibson to go over all of the financial and physical needs and specifications. So that's the team that looked at the bids. They're the ones that made the recommendation to me. And I asked them many of the questions that I'm sure that you have thought of. Maybe not all of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments before we vote on? So can I have a motion to accept the bid for the milling machine?
From Trident.
From
So I think,
Trident?
that- yeah, I think
So
the
we want to
motion
accept it for the $31,000?
$31,843.50. Yep. From Trident Machine Tools LLC, 651 Day Hill Road, Windsor, Connecticut, 06095.
Move, do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion over the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to vote on the motion to approve the bid for the milling machine for industrial design fabrication from Trident Machine Tools LLC out of Windsor, Connecticut for $31,843.50. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. No.
So if I may, though it's not on the agenda, we should probably, from procedural standpoint, just have the board authorize me to allocate the funds from the equipment grant to cover the majority of that cost. And the funds from the equipment grant are $27,647.
So you need those from the equipment grant?
Right.
Move to authorize the superintendent to use the funds from the equipment grant, $27,647.
Is there- Okay, there's
Thanks.
motion to move $27,647 from the equipment grant monies to pay for the machine, and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. So we are now into our informational portion of the agenda. And the first up is facilities report.
So you have that there. It's a continuation of projects that we've been talking about for the last few board meetings. The last meeting we did have at North Campus to review the second floor and visualize what creating access to that second floor would look like. The group that was there, I realized quickly we didn't have enough information to make a decision one way or the other, and really it's in the exploratory phase to understand what type of dollars we're talking about, and then we can talk about whether, so we need to get that information before we can talk about the value add and if spending the dollars makes sense or not. So there's ongoing discussions about how we would acquire that necessary information. And we did authorize John to purchase the auto scrubber, so that's in process. And we also discussed meeting on North Campus every so often. It was interesting to be in a different place and see students coming and going, and it's part of the campus that may not be frequented as often for this type of thing. So, any questions?
We're rather talkative tonight, aren't we?
I know. Break out in song, maybe?
We have spent a good bit of time also, Missy, on putting together a 5-year plan with a variety of items, and at some point we'll do a presentation. The Facilities Committee will probably do a presentation to the full board once we get some more information about those items that are on there. But I want to thank John Curler for taking the time to put that together and managing it and putting in a spreadsheet and having priorities assigned and so on and so forth.
Next on our informational agenda is budget policy report.
Pretty self-explanatory.
It was a pretty brief meeting.
Meeting.
It was-
No, I'm impressed.
We had rather a long meeting before that, so we kind of cut right through the nitty-gritty.
And most of that we actually addressed at the board meeting. So,
Wow, I think that's 10 minutes. That's the quickest.
When I chair,
Oh!
I keep Mark under,
Can I get your signature? 10 minutes.
All right, next is community engagement. Anybody?
We had a longer meeting.
we do.
We had a longer meeting, and then we all slid home that night. It was pretty treacherous driving.
That was the craziest drive home.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
yeah,
Anyway,
the parking lot was a sheet of ice,
Oh,
if
yeah?
I remember correctly.
we remembered. So we held hands to the car, we know. You're like, is this ice? Yes, okay. Anyway, so Kate Louvier had been tasked with a number of things that are listed below, and just some, different ways for us to communicate with the community in general, and, exploring front porch forum, enlist homeschool students, when's the best time to bring them in, how do you contact them, and so on. And we had a report on that. And then Dana talked about the Conversation Cafe and, you know, the different pieces of that, and that's pretty self-explanatory in that paragraph. One of the other members that we had that Dana had invited, a community member, talked to us a little bit about, and other members that were there, please feel free to chime in, talked about, we spent a lot of time talking about the website and the issues that they're having right now. It's just not very efficient, and it's not user-friendly. It's not, and you know, looking at different groups that are going to use it, the kids probably can get through it, but if you're a parent or a community member trying to do that, so Dana talked about some links that have been put kind of temporarily together to make sure that there is accessibility to some of the parts of the school that we really need to have. And you know, when you go to the site, I'll challenge you to try and navigate, and I think you will see what we're talking about. Some great pictures. They're a little outdated. Those are some other things that have to be corrected, and by the looks of it, the way it was built, it's not easy to change those things.
Right, the architecture is somewhat proprietary with
Yes.
the flash
And
components.
that's
that they put
something
in.
we can't have. So rather than try and rebuild it, the advice from Amy was we really need to make it much more user-friendly for not only the staff, but the IT people in the building, obviously, and administrators, so that can be changed. And pictures and other parts can be updated, which is very difficult to do right now without these links in place. So as that occurred, the rest of our agenda kind of fell into that category of once that's fixed, we could sit and communicate, actually, I'm trying to think of the word that she used. A communication plan, basically.
Yep, that's right.
That we would go back and say, okay, and bring in, you know, other support people in the office, for instance, that are usually normally assigned some of these, you know, in January or February, or wherever it is, to help hopefully participate in that plan. So that the plan's set up so that things are coordinated on a regular basis, and it's all out there in the open, and everybody understands what their roles are. And I think when you have a shift in office personnel especially, that have been here for so many years, you know, it clearly brings up things like, oh, well, she did that. Well, she's not here. But where is the information? What are some of the things that she was assigned to do that are relating to communication? And whoever the web person is, you know, and who else is authorized to go in there and make those changes? And is it consistently being overviewed by each department, for instance? You know, what participation do they have in regards to how some of those pieces are built? We felt that kind of would help a lot with a lot of our communication pieces and our links to, for instance, town hall officials and things like that, and other sending schools that really have been kind of, you know, weak in the past, I think is the word for it. I remember when I was on the board the first time, and we didn't even have a link to Mount Abe. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And it was a matter of just telling the right person. But when you have a communication plan that was explained to us by Amy, it's, you know, in a business format, it's just easy for everybody to see. Oh, okay, she takes care of that. I can go to her or him and get that answer or provide that information that they're looking for. And I don't know if I captured that.
And right now, the new site that we have, although it's very attractive and eye-catching,
Yes.
isn't terribly functional. And for example, the example that we had was that on the front page of our website, we can't post a notice that the school is closed, for example,
Yeah.
or that a meeting has changed. And so we know that we have to move towards a format that would be much more user-friendly and much more easily updated, so that when we post that, for example, school is closed or delayed, that could appear on the front page of our
So you need
website.
a calendar on the front page somewhere.
And we're gonna put calendar widgets, that was
Yeah,
one of the
there's all
things that.
sorts of things that
Right,
will
that Amy
guide people.
suggested.
You know, the opening menu is terrible. I mean, you can't find it. And then when you do, for instance, if you want to look at school board things in minutes and so on, very, very difficult to navigate. So it needs to be more user-friendly. And then we talked about how that affects the outreach opportunities that we need to have with homeschooling and people who are sitting there saying, well, gee, I don't go to public school, but I'm interested in this particular program, or a private school person who happens to live in the area maybe is thinking about coming back. We just need to be a lot more user-friendly than we are. And then the final thing we talked about was taking a look at the mission statement, which no organization ever wants to do, but we're working on it. And kind of got, what are some things that jump onto us with the current one? Where should we go with that? Amy gave us, again, some really nice input. It's really nice to have somebody who does marketing and on a regular basis to give us some idea of what's catchy, what isn't. And then we got an opportunity to educate her a little bit about, where that mission statement came from and why there are those, particular industry ready, comes to mind. There are some definitely keywords that we like to use and why, and what they mean. So we're gonna work on that, I think, in the near future. I thought it was a really productive meeting. I was really psyched about that after we skidded out to the parking lot. But I mean, it was worth it, in that respect, because especially with the communication plan, I think it was something that, wow, we really need to do that. And it just answered so many other things in our particular agenda that night that said, boom, that's where it is, And that's what you want, I think, out of a meeting, and it was that night, so it was helpful.
Christina, did you have any observations
Yeah, I was gonna
about?
say,
I think you covered it
Captured
all.
it? Thank you, I was trying.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was an energizing meeting. I felt that there was a lot of
It was.
synergy, and
She brought a lot to the table, and when we had the opportunity to have Kate there,
Yeah.
Kate does the same thing, and it really is helpful. She's got a lot of resources that she's been through professionally that I think are gonna help that particular group quite a bit.
And so one of the things that Christina and Kim said was that we should expand the capacity. We talked about this back maybe in November, October. The capacity of the committee and extend that to community members and to staff.
Yep.
And so having Kate come to one meeting and having Amy Deal come to another meeting, I think was really helpful in terms of generating greater capacity for the Community Engagement Committee, because that's what it's about, and bringing somebody from the community in to give us some feedback on a couple of our operational areas was, I think, very
Wow,
helpful.
it's really helpful. I think too, Dana, in the future, it's a good opportunity for each department to come in too and say, this is what I'm kind of missing, or, what are you guys doing about this? And
Right.
give their personal perspective and needs for their particular major, maybe. I
Great.
think that would be really helpful.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. So we'll move right on to the superintendent's report, please.
Well, you have the report in front of you. I'll just hit some of the highlights. Patrice did a nice job with the quality of the pictures that are in there. I do want to put in a plug. If everybody can come out tomorrow evening and support us with the open house for Pear Cafe and the Maker Faire, that would be great. We have lots of demonstrations that are going to be happening, either by our students, members of the community, or probably the repairers themselves. And we've been getting a lot of calls about all three, so we're hoping that we have a great turnout. I've begun my budget presentations to the partner sending districts, and I had one last week at ACSD, and I thought it went very well. They were engaged, asked a lot of good questions, and hopefully I had good answers for them. And I have been in contact with the superintendents from Mount Abraham Unified School District and the Addison Northwest, and those meetings will be coming up. One right after break, and then the other one on March 11th. So I asked them to give me any specific points that they would like me to talk to, and I can customize it for them. We had an extensive training on a program called DITEP, which is, what is it now? I wrote it in there.
Drug impairment training.
Yeah, drug impairment training for educational professionals. And the essence of that Len and I, along with 3 other members of the staff, spent 2 days, getting a really sound education about what types of substances are out there, whether they're illegal or just natural substances, such as nutmeg, that can have noxious effects on the human system, and the various methods that those substances can be ingested. It also helped us to understand the signs and symptoms, and for us to be able to evaluate or do a preliminary screening and refer a student for additional health and safety checks, whether that's with a school nurse or with an outside provider. And as those who serve in the capacity of managers on duty when we have a student issue, it's very helpful to have the toolkit that they provided us to be able to assess them and be able to call a nurse when appropriate. We also met with Chief Hanley, our safety team met with Chief Hanley as we make progress on our safety drills. We did I think I reported on this back in December, we did a walkthrough on an evacuation to 3 sites in the area, none of which is more than 10 or so minutes away. And we went over the procedures with Chief Hanley, got his feedback, and he made a few recommendations of things that we should have on hand if we have to locate to another site. We're working, John Curler is helping to gather all of the things that we would need, but we're talking with the nurse at Middlebury High School to provide us with those things, which we will reimburse her for. And we're getting ready for a walkthrough with our students just to an off-site location should something happen here that would require us to move to a new location. And I have a meeting on Friday, today's Wednesday, 2 days from now, with Bill Lawson to coordinate our emergency plans and training so that we can be on the same page, because they'll have emergency services have told us that they'll have one site. They'll treat us, both the ACSD administrative office, the high school, and the career center as one command center, because everybody will be affected by the same issues. So they're looking for us to be working in concert so that they can streamline communications, and we're happy to do that. So I want to thank Kelly Len and John Curler for all their work on helping us to make progress with that. Then there are the 2 pictures at the end. One of Jim Blair, who came and spoke to the design and illustration class, and he is a retired National Geographic photographer, and the students were enraptured with his stories about photojournalism and his encouragement, particularly of our young female students, to consider becoming photojournalists. I put a couple of links in there, or search terms that you can use to find more of his photos. And the most exciting part for me was the hydraulics picture that I put in there. Then you see 2 hydraulic arms from North Campus. There was a competition, and there were 2 finalists, and they actually tied. The interesting part was that in the debrief that you have here, you see all the kids who are paying attention, and Hayden's doing a demonstration. The students were able to identify that although both of them met the task of lifting a very heavy object, Len, do you know what the kilogram weight was? It was pretty heavy, if I remember. I want to say 15, but I may be wrong about that. But that one of them did it with a little bit more efficient mechanical advantage. So it was really exciting to hear the kids talk about the project and what they were trying to achieve, and the explanation from the 2 instructors. So it was something that's a little unusual. I don't know that we've done something like that before, have we?
Done for a couple of years.
Oh, we have, okay. I just caught it this year because I was out there. They were cutting up lots of wood and vials and working on it. So it was a great project, and the kids seemed to enjoy it quite a bit. So thanks to the auto inspectors for doing that.
Any questions or comments about superintendent's report. We'll move on to the dean of students report.
Okay, so we had the 8th graders from Middlebury Union Middle School in on January 25th, and we're also working on confirming dates for the Virginia Union Middle School and Mount Abraham Union Middle Schools to come in. And
that's new, right, Kelly? That's new? That the middle schools from those two schools are coming?
they have come all along.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, the middle school from Middlebury is the one that we've had sometimes issues getting them here.
I see, okay.
So they haven't always come. So we're going to recognize our outstanding students at our Q2 awards breakfast on the 27th and 28th of February. And Mark, I will give you an invitation, but everyone else has an invitation to choose one day or the other to come in and join us. And we have, like Dana said, our open houses tomorrow night. And then we're also looking toward our National Technical Honor Society induction ceremony on the 12th of March at 7 o'clock at Middlebury Union High School auditorium. And I've listed the attributes that are used by the National Technical Honor Society to select students: leadership, scholarship, skills, honesty, citizenship, service, and responsibility. So it should be pretty exciting to see who gets in this year. So. Also, due to weather concerns, our FFA members didn't have an opportunity to compete at the farm show in January, so those career development events have been moved to the FFA convention in May. So that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions?
Wow. Okay, so adult tech ed report.
All right. You see participation data in the top. This is for the calendar year 2018. The Adult Tech Ed Association has been compiling our respective centers' data by calendar year because it lets us report out to the legislature in this time of year with some fairly recent data. I think it shows a pretty robust program here, and particularly would draw attention to the number of IRCs earned, 116 industry recognized credentials out of 177 students. A lot of the density of that has to do with students earning multiple industry credentials, particularly students in the VT YouthWorks program. We are starting February 25th, our spring semester YouthWorks cohort. I mentioned here we're hopeful for 10, and last I knew we had 11 signed up, so really glad that we're seeing participation in that program pick up. Also have 3 students already signed up for a phlebotomy program that I've started developing this spring. I'm still working with UVM and Northwest Tech Center that has a phlebotomy program that is partnered with UVM to see if we can get aligned curriculum and the 2 tech centers working together under the same affiliation agreement so that we can offer that program with Porter Hospital as our clinical site. The meeting today with the child care directors group did not happen because of the snow. And I have received approval from the Adult Tech Ed Association for a $42,628 equipment grant for purchasing 2 welding simulators to be shared among tech centers and a small trailer to move them around. And this would be something that we targeted 4 kind of areas to collaborate on. For this one was to be able to do assessments of students prior to their signing up for a welding class so that we could place them in another, because the computer simulator has the ability to assess what welds a person can do, where their weaknesses are. The second thing we identified was the opportunity to extend practice time very inexpensively. So if we had for instance, a computer class going or a makery night that were open, we could have welding simulators that were in a supervised classroom that students in a welding class could come in and access for additional training hours with no additional cost in terms of staffing or equipment or consumables or anything. The third thing we were looking at was they're just phenomenal kid magnets for open houses and recruitment activities. And then the fourth thing was we're working with St. Johnsbury and Stafford Tech Centers on possibly using simulators to using welding simulators to deliver welding instruction inside of several of the regional correctional facilities so that students there could safely and securely start a training program that they would then be in a position to finish after release.
That's pretty cool. Any comments, suggestions, questions? Lori?
I just wondered, Len, you said it was going to be shared. Is it going to be shared by all the technical centers in the state or certain
About
ones?
half of them are interested, so about 3 are interested, so we're looking tentatively at like a 6 or 8 weeks per year that a tech center could sign them out and then have a calendar sign up, and all you need is like an 1 7/8 trailer ball, full trailer, and use it to your heart's content for the 8 weeks that we've got it signed up.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just wondering about the 2017 figures, like how you're comparing to previous years.
Yeah, the industry recognized credentials were up. The total number of students was down, but mostly because I think we over-reported last year because we had students who signed up for Middlebury Natural Foods Co-op classes. Every one that they signed up for was recorded as a different class, and that just didn't make sense.
Didn't quite fly, no. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or? Okay, so moving right along, policy 4.1, governing style. Who wants to give a stab on how we've done tonight? Okay, don't all jump at once.
We did well. We moved right along. Some very good questions were asked. Missy, thank you, by the way. You asked some very good questions about that topic. Good job, everybody.
Is it okay to add?
Sure.
I'm particularly impressed with the committee work. It seems like the committees are working really hard and covering a lot of good information. The Community Engagement Committee just came back together, last year? And so I think all of those things bring this meeting together.
Yeah, makes for a well-rounded meeting and allows everyone to know what's going on. All right, we are 7 minutes ahead of schedule.
Time to eat.
So we can take those 7 minutes and grab your dinner that's over there, and then we can come back for a 6 o'clock executive session, but we need a motion to go into executive session. So what is your pleasure? Do you want to go into executive session now and then eat, or?
It's fast. We'll do it now or whatever.
Okay. Well, it's up to you guys. That's not, I'm not, I mean, you want to do the executive session?
now.
All right. So can I have a motion to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel? Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel. All in favor? Anybody opposing? Okay,